a little bit about pollinators and why they are so important. It turns out that pollinators are actually responsible for 1 out of every 3 bites of food that you take. Approximately 75 to 95% of all flowering plants need some sort of help with pollination. Some plants are pollinated by wind, and some are pollinated by water or rain. Some self-pollinate, but most need some sort of help with pollination. As far as pollinators go, there's butterflies, moths, birds, small mammals, ants, flies, wasps, but by far the biggest pollinator is bees. So we really need to start paying more attention to the bee populations and helping the bees out. A lot of our pollinators are in decline right now, and most of that is because of loss of habitat, and they need habitat for both food and for nesting and overwintering.
So there's a couple different kinds of flowers that provide food for your pollinators. The most basic flower is a simple flower, and that's just like this tomato here, where it's just kind of one flower by itself, and sometimes there's a few of them on a branch. And so this is visited by bees, and they're looking for the pollen, and they're also capturing some of that pollen on their bodies and transferring it to other flowers, so they're able to spread that around. And that's also where we get cross-pollination, is from these pollinators. Another type of flower is a compound flower. So that is particularly attractive to a lot of different pollinators. So that is one where there's a lot of tiny flowers, like this carrot flower here. So there's a lot of tiny flowers born on this one stem. And this, yarrow, carrots, dill, a lot of things in that family have these big composite flowers, and they're just really nice to attract like predatory wasps or bees. We've got a lot of ants on ours today. So these are a great thing to just intersperse in your vegetable garden to make sure that you're attracting pollinators, which are going to help your crops to produce better and also help to feed your pollinators. And another thing to note is that just because a plant has flowers does not necessarily mean that it's going to be good for pollinators. Some of the hybrid plants have actually been bred so that the parts that make pollen are actually just, they're now petals. So pay attention if you're getting flowering plants that are, multi-petaled or double-bloomed flowers, or there's certain words, and even if you take a look at the flower itself, if you notice that it's just a lot of petals and there's no real internal parts that produce pollen, that might be a sign that this is a beautiful showy flower, but it might not be as good for pollinators. And one of the easiest ways to make sure that you're planting things that pollinators will enjoy is to plant native plants. They evolved with the pollinators, so they should be providing a lot of food sources for them, as well as nesting habitat.